Hey, what's going on, guys? Gamerdude back once again with another episode in our Just the Facts series. Today we are discussing the upcoming games as we come to the end of 2019 and prepare ourselves for the next generation of consoles and gaming next year. Now, this episode has taken a ton of research and a ton of time, and yes, I have had to fully script this one because it's just a lot to take in. So sit back, relax, grab a snack, because it's going to be a long one. So here I am about to drop a huge list of upcoming PS4 games, and it's a whopper because it is full of excellent titles just aching to be played. As we speed towards the end of the year, it's about to get very busy in the PS4 gaming land. And yes, that's even with the PS5 and Xbox Scarlet looming on the horizon. It's worth noting on this list that I've actually done it all in release date order, which took a very long time. But I've selected and picked out the biggest games we know about that are 100% confirmed to appear this year, providing they aren't postponed. But the upcoming games aren't necessarily going to be exclusives either. Some may or may not appear on other consoles, and most will definitely be Pro-enhanced. So maybe it's time to consider picking up a PS4 Pro on the cheap side, ASAP, before the next generation of consoles rear their ugly heads our way. So first on the list we have a completely new standalone game called Control. It is scheduled for release later this month on the 27th. Its genre is an action-based game similar to that of the Uncharted series. Now, what is it? It's sort of a mind-bending, reality-bothering shooter from Remedy Studios, the people who made the Max Payne series. So, why is it so interesting? The very concept is indeed a bizarre one. You play as Jesse Faden, or Fadden, however, let's just go with Fadden because it's easier, the director of the Federal Bureau of Control, so basically this game's version of the FBI. You're responsible for everything mysterious and supernatural in the USA. Your HQ is called the Oldest House. Bit weird. But it's a weird trans-dimensional space, shifting and changing just impossibly. So yeah, again, weird. You'll be able to combine gunplay with psychic powers in-game, and your weapons will change states to serve different purposes. So loosely expect it to morph from like a pistol to a shotgun or something. So kind of like Iron Man's nanotech, if you think about it. It does all sound very reminiscent of a Steven Spielberg movie or some kind of supernatural movie, but you know, I'm kind of okay with that. I like that sort of stuff. But let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in this game and if you want to give it a whirl. So second on the list, we have a game that needs absolutely no introduction, as it's probably one of the most popular game franchises since Time Splitters or Grand Theft Auto, and that is of course Borderlands 3. Releasing on the 23rd of September this year, it is a first-person action shooter adventure game. You know, you'd have to be dense not to know that, so I'm just going to move on from that part. What is it? Well, again, you'd have to be dense to not know, so I'm going to keep this a bit brief. So it's a long-awaited threequel to the Borderlands series. Well, I say threequel. If you count Telltale's, like Tales from the Borderlands, then it's technically the fourth entry into the series. You know, they're always full of guns, puns, and trademark silliness that makes the game so lovable. So, why is it so interesting? Well, will it be overhyped? Well, not only have fans been waiting a long time for Borderlands 3, from the looks of the trailers so far, it's nailed the tone of the previous installments into a new series and definitely has that nostalgic vibe from all the other Borderlands games, including the Telltale version. It channels probably just the right amount of cocky swagger and lame puns to bring joy to all its fans. Fan favourite characters like Lilith and Sir Hammerlock and Ellie are confirmed to be returning. But there are new things to come as well, possibly over DLCs or just things that they haven't announced yet. So there's going to be bigger guns, and there's going to be a hell of a lot more guns. There's going to be over 1 billion. Yes, you heard that right, that's right, 1 billion. So you'd probably best get saving that Pandora cash. So the weapons actually include some with legs. Not turreted, but legs. There's a brand new transport, like a motorbike, that's basically a wheel you sit on. So it kind of looks like a gyro bike from the concept art. There's several new locations and much more to offer. It's definitely going to be an exciting time. But do let me know if you guys are excited for the next Borderlands game. I mean, considering I've only just started enjoying the series after years of hate for it because it was a first-person game, I can't really comment or speculate on what to think for this game because, you know, I don't want to say, oh, I want to get it, and then I get it and I don't like it. So I'm not going to say anything more on that. So third, we have Ghost Recon Breakpoint, which features that lovable villain, that psycho with the skull fetish, none other than Johnny Bernthal himself. A brilliant and fantastic actor who will definitely be carrying this game for anyone who's new to the series, because everybody knows who John Bernthal is by now. You know, everybody who's anybody has either seen The Punisher on Netflix or The Walking Dead, and they know who John Bernthal is. I mean, I knew him before that because he does actually have a brief cameo in Night at the Museum too, which, you know, I point out to most people these days and they're just like, no he didn't, no he didn't. I'm like, yes he did, watch the film again. But anyway, this game is due for release on October the 4th of 2019. It is a typical tactical shooter like other games in the series, although this one seems to follow a more traditional vibe as opposed to all the futuristic crap we've seen in recent years. So what is it? Well, basically it's a new entry into the series, which gives us a new story that pits Ghost Recon military ghosts against former ghosts, so ones that have gone AWOL or ones that have quit or ones that have just started a war for no apparent reason, because why not? So why is it going to be so interesting? For starters, Ghost Recon Breakpoint will see you go up against John Bernthal, as I said, who's reprising his role as Colonel Cole D. Walker from the Operation Oracle DLC that recently came to Ghost Recon Wildlands. Walker has the same training as any other ghost, so his band of wolves are going to be one tough nut to crack if you're a fan of the series. This entry also puts more of a focus on the survival aspect of things, so you'll have to keep an eye on your injuries and use the equipment to go through some hairier situations. Very similar to that of the Metal Gear Solid series, where in later games to heal, you can see yourself pulling shrapnel or bullets out of your wounds and then you just wrap it up. So it's set in a completely new and different location, on an island called Aurora. That's home to the mysterious Skell Technology Facility. You'll also have to contend with drones and all manner of advanced tech. So yeah, again, let me know if you're a fan of the Ghost Recon series and are looking forward to seeing another game in the series. I mean, if you played the DLC of the last one, you're going to be looking forward to it because, you know, John Bernthal's back. Personally, I'm not a fan. But with John Bernthal at the helm of the game, I might just have to give it a whirl. So next we have an interesting entry from Obsidian Entertainment called The Outer Worlds. I mean, speaking of Obsidian Entertainment, South Park's on the screen. Timed that just right, didn't I? So the release schedule for this, it should be around October 25th, 2019, depending, varying if they decide to postpone it or not, because Obsidian Entertainment do have a history for doing that. They'll give you a release date and then they'll say, no, wait, we're going to push it back till Christmas or some shit. But it is your typical RPG game. So, what is it? Well, it's kind of a new sci-fi RPG from Obsidian Entertainment. I can imagine, given what Obsidian have pushed out in the past, this will be an interesting story of its own. So we ask, why is it going to be interesting? Excuse me. Knowing the Outer Worlds is coming from Obsidian is very promising in and of itself. The studio gave birth to the likes of Fallout New Vegas and South Park The Stick of Truth. Again, it's currently on screen. They are known for offering lots of player choice and its own brand of humour. This new game is set in a colony in the furthest reaches of space, in another galaxy. The lead character is a customizable character whom you control. The cast awakens from cryosleep to find themselves caught up in some kind of a conspiracy that threatens the whole colony and future of the human race, really, or whatever race they're from. With companions, dialogue choices, first-person combat, and a setting filled with colourful creatures and zany sci-fi weapons, the Outer Worlds looks set to be the next big time stealer. So again, do let me know what you guys think about this. I was thinking of getting it myself until I found out it was a first-person RPG. I'm not fond of first-person shooters. My veteran subscribers will know I trash on first-person shooters all the time, especially considering this game allows character customization. There's just no point allowing character customization in a first-person game. It's just ridiculous and pointless. There's no need for it. But nonetheless, it does seem quite interesting. Now, on the next list is something I've been looking forward to for many years, featuring that lovable crossbow-wielding, motorcycle-loving Norman Reedus. It is, of course, none other than Death Stranding. Norman hasn't had much luck when it comes to gaming, due to the fact most of the games he was supposed to star in got canned mid-production, meaning they just never got released. So, release date, after years of waiting, has now been finally confirmed for November the 8th of this year. The genre, well, your guess is probably as good as mine. I have absolutely no idea what this is going to be about, but from what we've seen, you carry around a creepy fetus on your chest and run from invisible hand creatures. So, yeah, fun. Now, what is it? Well, the iconic Kojima Entertainment and Norman Reedus have teamed up for an interesting and mysterious collaboration in Death Stranding, apparently involving babies and sometimes the occasional beached whale. Not much more is known because they've kept it very hush-hush. They've only released a couple of trailers. So again, we ask, why is this so interesting? Sure, we don't have any actual gameplay as of yet. We've just had that little bit where he's walking through the field. But we do have plenty of in-engine and cutscene footage. This gives us a rough idea of what happens when Hideo Kojima gets to play in a mocap studio with Norman Reedus and Mads Mikkelsen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, so let's just leave it there. Death Stranding is incredibly, still largely, a mystery. Remember when Kojima was talking about sticks? It's like, okay, sticks, whatever. But thanks to last year's Game Awards, we know there are babies, invisible creatures, sentient AI, and Reedus does apparently break the fourth wall in this game as well. You know, the character he's playing actually knows he's in a game, and he will have interactions with Norman Reedus himself, not the character that he's playing, just Norman Reedus, which is really strange. But it's very similar to that of Deadpool. You know, Deadpool knows he's a comic book character, he knows he's a game character, etc. But all we can say for sure is that Reedus plays a man called Sam with a creepy fetus on his chest. But it's best to check out the trailer if you haven't already to get the full lowdown on exactly what Kojima is cooking up for this PS4 exclusive. So this one's going to be interesting for fans of this series, which kind of has been dying for many years now. Yes, EA Games have done it again and brought another Star Wars game into the mix. But with Disney now owning complete rights to Star Wars, who knows how this is going to look. So the release for this is scheduled for around November of this year. It's of course an action adventure online shooter. But what is it? Well, basically it's a brand new third person take on the Star Wars games, made by Respawn Entertainment, code with, or sided with, or whatever you want to call it, with EA Games. Respawn Entertainment brought us the likes of Apex Legends and Titanfall series, both games of which I absolutely hate. So why is it so interesting? If you've been waiting for a new Star Wars game, the Force may be with you on this one. You see what I did there? I mean, sorry, bad jokes. I've been playing and watching Spider-Man a lot lately, and I really need to stop. I'm picking up too many bad puns. Anyway, the game is actually called Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And it's a game that's going to let you embrace the full role and the full power of a Jedi, and all the glorious lightsaber force action that entails with it. It appears to run on its roots of the more classical Star Wars games from back in the day, with just enough of a modern take on it to get it up to speed. The plot is set after the purge of Order 66, after the events of Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, so pre-Disney. But you've got to know that with Disney owning the rights to Star Wars, they have been involved, even though this is set pre-Disney world. So you're on a quest to rebuild the Jedi Order, playing as Jedi Padawan Cal Kestis, I think. Let's just leave it there. Who's lost, alone, and on the run. There will be iconic locations to explore, which are fully open world, I might add. There's also going to be new weapons, new gear, and enemies in the bundles. Plus, brand new, never before seen, yet totally canon to all the original 3 movie locations, including returning characters, villains, and more inbound, possibly with DLCs. So do prepare to be excited. But yeah, let me know if you guys are excited for this one. This may actually be the first Star Wars game I buy since Battlefront back on the PS2. And that was a very, very long time ago. So you've got to think, if I'm considering buying this and it's been so long, it might definitely be worth a buy. Well, the next one's very unusual, and the best way to describe it is different. It's basically a Japanese anime movie brought to life as an interactive game. It's called Shenmue or Shenmue 3. I don't know how to pronounce that. But how I've missed that this game had 2 other games really does not surprise me. But again, it's due for release in November of this year, and it's basically just an action-adventure game. So, what is it? Well, it's partially crowdfunded, part Sony financed, and it's a follow-up to the expensive old-school Dreamcast games that basically bankrupted that iconic console. The revival of said games could see Sega bring us a new console at some point, because as we all know, the console wars is well underway with the modern age that we live in today. So, why is it so interesting? The fact that Shenmue or Shenmue, I don't know, 3 isn't just vaporware is perhaps the most intriguing thing about it. There's clearly still a lot of love for this character and his weird, insatiable hunger for semen. Yeah, you heard that right, semen. I did research into this, and it is definitely semen. Very strange. Anyway, the game was re-revealed back at E3 in 2015, but it's only recently during the PC gaming show at E3 of this year a new gameplay trailer was revealed, showing off the hero taking on some drunken thugs with a lot of his trademark punches and kicks. The trailer has also revealed the news that the release date has been pushed back from its initial date of August to November. After so many years since it was first revealed, it's good to know it's still making its way to us this year, I suppose, even though I've never heard of it. So saying that, it's not hard to guess what you guys will be thinking of this game. I mean, a guy that enjoys semen? Really? I mean, I've never even heard of it. I didn't even know it came from the legendary Dreamcast. Anyway, it could be interesting for those who are into this sort of thing, so just let me know. Now here's something we can all get behind. An iconic game series that's been carried since the early 90s. Yes, it's another entry into that fanatical Doom series called Doom Eternal. Release date is scheduled for November 22nd of this year. Of course, it's an action shooter game. So, what is it then? Well, it's not a new game, it's not a reboot. It is in fact a direct sequel to the 2016's Doom game, with more weapons, moves, and amazing, just awesome metal music. I mean, the music in Doom is always just brilliant. So we ask again, why is it so interesting? So just when you thought 2016's Doom gave you your fill of demon slaying action with awesome metal music, when ID Software dropped the news that we were getting Doom Eternal, I was actually quite hyped. I mean, I played the last one because it was on PS Plus, but I deleted it because, you know, I couldn't get into it. But I still enjoyed it. It's not to say I didn't enjoy it, because I did. I just couldn't get into it as a game. But Doom Eternal promises to be bigger and better, with combat that's really taking a step up with the addition of new weapons and a new addition of a grappling hook. So that could be fun, that could be interesting. Saves all that weird I think they try to parkour it, but they've realised the parkouring doesn't work, so they've just added a grappling hook instead. But the story is much grander in scale as well, with Doom Guy jumping across dimensions to locations like Mars and oddly even Heaven. Yeah, that's right, Heaven, in a bid to try and save Earth from being completely annihilated. As if that wasn't enough already, it also features a brand new multiplayer mode that'll let you control demons and take on a fully kitted out Doomslayer. So Doomslayer, is that some kind of giant robot, or is it just like the Doomslayer in general? Oh, and there is a shiny collector's edition with a life-size wearable Praetor helmet. So hell yeah. Although I reckon that will dig a hole in your wallet if you want that version. So just beware on that. But yeah, let me know if you guys are hyped for this new Doom game. I was a great lover of Doom back in the day, in spite of it being first person. But this was before I realised what kind of gamer I really was, and I just gave anything a try, really. So this next one's a little odd. It's certainly different and takes us back to the days where we all loved playing games like Roller Coaster Tycoon, The Sims, and things like that. It's a simulator game called 2 Point Hospital. Release date, well, no official date has been confirmed. We just know it's due sometime in late of this year. So what is it? Well, technically it's the spiritual successor to Theme Hospital, but this one is on a much bigger scale. So why is it so interesting? 2 Point Hospital is a strange and crazy world where hospitals are filled with patients and with bizarre illnesses, which require you to see to patients and try and help them as best you can. VIPs will take over your wards, and the 2-point radio DJs will fill your ears with British sass. Let us hope they haven't gone too overboard with the British accents, because I'm British, and do you hear me talking like that? No, we don't talk like that. We don't talk all old-timey. It's like, what, would you like a spot of tea and crumpets, sir? No, we don't talk like that. We don't. We haven't done for centuries now. But it's definitely a brilliant homage to Theme Hospital, and made by the original key developers behind it as well. So it's a simulator with some serious credentials behind it. But let me know what you guys think of this. If you're into these types of games, it'll be kind of like playing The Sims, or as I said, Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the day. Definitely sounds interesting, but I think I'm going to give it a miss. So that's it for 2019, as we now move into 2020 scheduling. Safe to say 2019 still has a few more golden eggs to give. So providing these dates don't change, this is what we know for 2020. First up in the 2020 lineup we have Gods and Monsters. Release date is scheduled for February 25th, 2020. It is sort of like an action-adventure game. So what is it? It's a weird new storybook adventure in a world of Greek mythology from the genius creators behind Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Why is it so interesting? Well, the team behind Assassin's Creed Odyssey announced at this year's E3 that it is breaking free from the limitations of the history books to bring us a new fantastical adventure based on the stories of Greek mythology. As the hero of the story, the gods of Olympus turn to you for help and bestow you with just their powers, basically, to take on all the mythological creatures who have invaded the Isle of the Blessed. So I'm guessing that's, I don't know, like Mount Olympus or something. You'll work to save the gods and face down the most fearsome and powerful mythical creature of all time. So basically it's a role reversal, and it's the opposite of the original God of War games, which sees Kratos killing all the Greek gods in order to ascend to power. So Gods and Monsters is a reverse of this, as you've just heard. You know, the gods turn to you for help and you're helping them instead of killing them all. So that's good, I suppose. So Gods and Monsters is wrapped up in a beautiful cartoon-like style that promises to deliver one very charming and interesting open world adventure. And yes, it is fully open world, I have looked into it. So let me know what you think about this. It does sound very interesting to say the least, and I definitely enjoy games with this kind of design and animation. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. So of course in February as well we have Destroy All Humans coming, but I've left that out because I've done a video on that before and I've dropped all the details on that before. The only new thing we've got coming for Destroy All Humans are 2 new editions of the game. There's a collector's edition and a steelbook edition. Steelbook just comes with some extra DLC codes, and the collector's edition comes with a Crypto statue. That's it. I nearly said Kratos. Crypto statue, an Orthopox little bobblehead thing, all the DLC codes and whatnot, and a keychain as well. So that's fun. So moving on, the next game in the 2020 lineup is a game that will get gamers excited and foaming at the mouth. Yes, it's the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Yes, that's a remake and not a remaster. A remaster is basically just the same game with upscale graphics. A remake is the game completely rebuilt from the ground up, inputting things into it that they couldn't fit into the original game as well. So it's scheduled for release in March of 2020. I think it was March 3rd. I didn't write that in the script, so I think it was March 3rd, but don't quote me on that. So what is it? Remember that time in 1997 when you cried because of what happened to Aerith? Well, you get to remember it again. Sorry, just remember berries. So yeah, get ready to experience the whole thing all over again, but with better graphics and a rebuilt, just just a game rebuilt with a new engine from the ground up. So, you know, I was never a fan of the series, but to fans of the series, I can imagine it will be absolutely fantastic to see this game rebuilt. So why is it so interesting? Well, after decades of false rumours and fake leaks, as well as developers' denials and harsh trolls, one of the most highly anticipated game remakes has been announced. Sony showed the Final Fantasy VII remake off at the press conference back at E3 in 2015. And we've only recently finally gotten an actual release date and seen the whole gang in action at this year's E3. It'll be more action based than the original, with real-time combat mixed in turn based, really. It's still set to come out in several installments like the original, which makes sense when you think about it with just how huge the first installation of it was, or installment of it was, yeah, installment, that's it. You know, and how many discs were provided with that game as well. So do let me know how you guys feel about this. Personally, I never was a fan of the Final Fantasy series. It was way too action-based for my taste. Rhyme. God, I really need to stop playing and watching Spider-Man. Anyway, remakes are always better than remasters because, in a sense, it's an entirely new game. Now, this is a game that again needs no introduction. After the disappointment of the second game, this one promises to bring the game back to its roots like we saw from the first. Set in the UK, which makes it of particular interest to myself, being from the UK. Yes, it's Watch Dogs 3, known as Watch Dogs Legion. Release date, it was unfortunately pushed back to March 6th of 2020. So, what is it? What do we know? Well, I don't even need to ask this, do I? It's basically the same as the other two games. A hacking, action-packed adventure set in a futuristic dystopian post-Brexit London, which probably actually foreshadowing the future, to be quite honest. Especially now with Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. Enough said. So, why is it so interesting? Well, Watch Dogs Legion takes place in a dystopian post-Brexit London, which, as I said, in itself is probably foreshadowing the future. In this game, drones and hackers roam the city in spades. What's so interesting about this new Watch Dogs experience is that while hacking is still at the heart of the game, building up a team of agents is what really drives it. Absolutely every single NPC in the city can be drafted and used as playable characters. So there's no specific protagonist, there's no specific playable character. So there's really no need to play favoritism. But yeah, once a character dies, there's no respawn, there's no extra life. That character is gone for good. So again, as I said, there's no point getting attached to any characters. So this is pretty exciting, to say the least. Especially when you play as that badass grandma that was showing off at E3. You know, she's not old, she's experienced. The futuristic depiction of London already looks impeccably detailed and so beautiful. And with so many playable characters and iconic British cars littering the streets, Legion looks set to be the most interesting Watch Dogs entry as of late. Well, to date, you know, it just looks good, basically. So what do you guys think? Are you as excited for this as I am? Originally, I'll admit, I wasn't happy about it, given that the second was just frankly disappointing. But I've been watching and rewatching that trailer, and the game does look absolutely brilliant. So now here's one that's been on the drawing board for a very long time, and has us quite hyped up. Well, it's hyped us up for years at every E3 since it was first announced. Yes, it's the long-awaited Cyberpunk 2077. So, release date. Sadly, we are going to have to wait a little longer for this, as it's scheduled for release in April of 2020. Guessing that puts it round about just in time for the PS5. So what is it? Well, it's a new game from CD Projekt Red, but it's from the creators of the hugely successful Witcher series. So what makes it so interesting? Well, Cyberpunk 2077 is a first-person RPG that places a heavy emphasis on personal modding and action. And while it's still as deep as an RPG, as you'd expect, it's way more action-heavy than CD Projekt's previous game, The Witcher 3. One gameplay example we've seen is that you can shoot through enemies while hacking their weaponry with your mind and scanning the environment with visual enhancements. Everything looks absolutely flawless in game, and there's a real distinctive futuristic vibe to everything. With the inhabitants of the city ranging from barely enhanced humans to outlandishly modified gangsters and technologically advanced drones. But during E3 2019, we did learn a lot of new information regarding it, including the fact you'll be able to finish the game without committing a single kill, which does seem quite impossible, if you think about it, because, a game like that, you'd expect to kill someone, even if it's by accident, by running them over on the street, it always happens. But with none other than the fantastic, the amazing Keanu Reeves at the helm. He will be playing a huge role in the RPG. He did take to the stage to reveal the long-awaited release date, which was a nice little touch. So are you guys excited for this? I certainly am. It's different, it's new, and it definitely looks interesting. I don't know about you guys, but I am quite excited for this, and I will definitely be making a purchase. So, there's another one that's come, and it's a bit of a weird one, but it's called Vampire the Masquerade. Release date will be sometime in the fall of 2020. But what is it? Well, it's a vampire RPG set in Seattle that's a sequel to the cult classic Vampire the Masquerade, Bloodlines. Companies have tried to replicate this, a fine example of which was the lame and frankly awful game called Vampire, which seemed like it should have really been a PS2 game. So why is this one going to be so interesting? Well, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 sees you play as a vampire who was sired as an act of vampire terrorism during the mass embrace, thrown into the seedy underbelly of Seattle where creatures roam in the dark, waiting to come out. You'll get caught up in the politics of the different vampire factions and try to grapple with your new abilities and way of life. Just like in the first game, there will be a whole host of different vampire clans with different abilities and social standings. Heavy on the RPG elements like player choice and strong narrative and dialogue options, the sequel looks set to build on the lore and elements of the first and bring it to another generation with its own new features. So how do you guys feel about this game? Honestly, I don't even know. I didn't even know this had a previous game. I didn't even know it was a thing. But I think after playing Vampire, I'm kind of off vampire games. Although it is still fun to play the original Blade games back on the PS2. Next up, we have another simulator game. These are becoming increasingly popular lately. It's great to see a generation of games make a return. So this one is a pirate simulator called Skull and Bones. For those who enjoy the Pirates of the Caribbean games, this should be quite fun to expand upon and get more into the game. The release date is still to be decided for 2020. But what is it? Well, it's basically the naval combat sections of Assassin's Creed Black Flag, minus the stabby hooded free running parkouring stuff. So again we ask, why is it so interesting? Because it's the naval combat sections of Assassin's Creed Black Flag minus again the stabby hooded free running parkouring. If your favourite part of Edward Kenway's floating adventures were peppering ships with mortars and watching mass crumble to matchsticks, then welcome to Skull and Bones, basically. It's by Ubisoft, but don't let that put you off. They know how much we all like big boats, and that has been implemented accordingly. Throwing multiplayer into the mix and letting you take on your friends who all have lootable ships, take them down in a hail of cannon fire, or you can team up with them and create your own fleet, but you can also steal their gold and unlock bigger targets. This is one that's probably worth walking the plank for, though. So this one's definitely different. It's not unusual, but it's different. It seems like it could be fun, but I can't say anything on it until we see more gameplay, so what do you guys think about it? So here it is, another entry into this series, which has been going for over a decade now. Yes, it's Dragon Ball Z, and this one's called Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, or Karakarot, whatever. Release date, well, we don't have an official release date. It's still to be decided at the moment. But what is it? Well, it's an action RPG based on Dragon Ball Z anime, which basically has you relive Goku's story. It's apparently canon, but it's also a new story of its own. So again, I ask, why is it so interesting? Fighting is definitely a huge part of Dragon Ball Z, but it's also got a whole lot of story to it. And the memorable cast of characters is what really brings it to life. And fans of the original Dragon Ball series should be feeling pretty excited right about now, as most of the original cast from the original anime are supposedly set to return to reprise their roles. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, or whatever it's called, is a newly announced RPG from Bandai Namco that lets you relive the entire story of the series as Goku. Now, here's where it gets interesting and adds that sort of new element to it. Obviously, there's lots of fighting, but you can also fly around the world, go fishing, eat, and train in different monasteries as you journey throughout the adventure. You'll also be able to fight as other characters as you form friendships along the way. It looks set to the perfect way to relive the Dragon Ball Z experience all over again. It also looks like it'll be the start of a new saga of Dragon Ball Z games with the introduction of the next generation consoles next year. So how do you guys feel about this? Are you excited about this? Honestly, I'm actually looking forward to this. Usually Dragon Ball Z games are just fighting in small environments similar to that of Tekken, but this one seems open world, which is just how I like my games. Now this one is my jam. Another entry into the zombie apocalypse series, and no, it's not Dead Island 2, that's probably never happening. No, instead it is Dying Light 2, a direct sequel to the first game. Release date, well, there's no official release date as of yet. Once again, it's another to be decided. It is of course a RPG survival horror multiplayer thing. So what is it? Well, obviously it's the long-awaited sequel to Techland's zombie-filled parkouring survival horror Dying Light. And again, why is it so interesting? Well, Dying Light came out back in 2015. It was a first-person zombie shooter which dropped you right into the apocalypse as soon as you started, and then you get bit. it's just a typical thing, that, isn't it? But since then, many have been hoping for a sequel. So when news actually hit that Dying Light 2 was in fact happening, the excitement for another zombie fest from Techland was really, really out there, you could say. So the second game takes place 15 years after the first, and one human settlement still stands in the modern Dark Age the infected world has fallen into. So kind of like the Resident Evil Extinction vibe. So there are more RPG elements to offer this time around, with difficult choices and sacrifices to make to help or hinder the world. From what we've seen so far, the world's visuals look absolutely brilliant. and it looks set to be even bigger than the first. You can also once again play the entire campaign in 4-player co-op mode, and there's even more parkouring action to be had with what looks like a grappling hook. So I don't have to ask you guys if you're excited for this one. Everyone loves zombie fiction, gaming or otherwise, so I'll just leave that there. I should really finish the first game before this one comes out though. The one we've all been waiting for. The one that gets us foaming at the mouth, aching for more information as we come closer to the next generation of consoles. Yes, it's The Last of Us Part 2. This is of course the highly anticipated sequel to the ever so popular first game, which ended on such a huge climax. Release date. Unfortunately, it's another to be decided. Originally we did think it was going to release earlier this year, just before or just after Days Gone, but I'm guessing Sony took advantage of the time and figured, well, if we make people wait, we can make some improvements and cross-platform it from PS4 to PS5, which would make the most sense, really. So, what is it? Well, the sequel from Naughty Dog to the phenomenal Last of Us, which sees you battle fungi-infested zombies in a post-apocalyptic world. So why is it so interesting? It is because the world was split as to whether The Last of Us ever needed a sequel in the first place. Hell no. Of course there was plenty of apocalypse still to tell from the story, but did we need to see what Joel and Ellie did next? Of course we did! And now we're about to figure out and find out, and it's not going well, and it's going to be absolutely insane, really. Confirmed to take place partly in Seattle, The Last of Us Part 2 hasn't revealed much in the way of story content, but it has shown us plenty of brutal violence as humanity attempts to survive 5 years after Joel and Ellie's original outing. After that cut to black at the end scene of the first game, we've all wondered what happened to Joel and Ellie in the years that followed. Now personally, I've been saying this for months. I've always thought that Ellie killed Joel because she knew what he did in order to save her from the Fireflies in that hospital. And Joel in The Last of Us Part 2 will just appear as Ellie's conscience, so to speak. But in case you hadn't worked it out, survival isn't easy, and empathy looks like it's at an all-time low, really. I mean, especially with Ellie dropping that line, I'm going to kill every last one of them. So that was fun. So, again, this is one I don't need to ask you guys about. It's safe to say we can be seriously hyped for this either way. And, moving on, I'm not happy about this one. Another Lego game. I'm just going to get this one over with. It's a Lego Star Wars game, yet again. Release date is to be decided. So, what's it going to be like? What is it? So, it features all 9 Star Wars films in Lego form. But why Lego, really? Why can't they just make a proper game? See, Lego is just lazy designing. But why is it so interesting? Well, it's not, but I've opened each of these with why is it so interesting, so, you know. But yeah, I may trash on Lego and whatnot, but Star Wars has always been a winning combination with Lego. It's been able to play out every single Star Wars movie from A New Hope to The Last Jedi in Lego form. Makes for an interesting adventure, I suppose. But I'd still prefer a genuine game. I'm guessing they couldn't be asked getting people in for mocap on this to just reenact the whole movie, or all of the movies. So that's exactly what we're going to get with the recently announced Skywalker saga. While we've already gotten to experience most of the Star Wars films in the form of Lego games, we'll be able to play out the latest adventures with Rey and the gang as well. Honestly, I'm not sure if the previous games will be tweaked in any way or just remastered, but regardless, they're sure to be just as painfully annoying. So what do you guys think? Do you guys like Lego games, or do you think they're just as ridiculous as I do? Let me know. Next and finally, and it's about time as well because this is like 50 minutes long now, we have Ghost of Tsushima. Release date is currently unknown. I mean, I heard it was actually canned, but my research shows it is still alive and well. So it is of course an open world Japanese anime adventure, but what is it? You know, why is it so interesting? Well, it's from the developers of the infamous Second Son game, so that's a pretty good achievement. So for me personally, Ghost of Tsushima was a highlight from Sony's weird E3 2018 conference, which we saw leading character Jin taking on several Mongolian enemies. Goddamn Mongolians. While his village burned from their attack in an ancient dystopian Japan. Honestly, it looks utterly stunning and flawless, with leaves falling delicately from the trees, with a glowing sunset burning in the background. We also see some horse riding, some stealth, and some swordplay, which looks more like the kind of tactical fighting you'd expect to see from a game like For Honor, rather than a quick and simple hack and slash. The E3 demo finishes with a boss fight of sorts as Jin's closest ally turns on him, and we really see the action in full flow, with swipes, parries, and so much back and forth swordplay. With Sony not appearing at this year's E3, we missed out on any details from this game, but it's safe to say we will definitely see more as we progress into the months of next year. But anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you stuck around to the end. I'm sorry it was much longer than usual, but there was a lot to cover here. But I hope I've expanded your gaming knowledge and given you an inside look into these up and coming games. So stay tuned tomorrow because we will be continuing another game series in place of our Telltale game series until we are able to replace The Walking Dead Season 3. You guys know the story, I don't need to say it again, so don't miss that. Shout out to all subscribers, old and new. We are now at 944, getting ever so close to that goal of 1k, which would be an absolutely amazing achievement, and I can't thank you all enough for the continuous support and views of my content. If you're new to the channel and enjoyed this video or any of my other content, make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe. I always sub back to new subscribers and view any content you may be producing. So that being said, this has been Just the Facts with Gamerdude. Happy gaming, and I'll catch you all in the next one, guys.